Hello, everybody. My name is Brittany Hall. Welcome to the Revenue Agency Podcast. And today I am very excited because I am joined by a man who is not only really cute and a great father and husband, but he is my husband, Ryan Hall. Welcome, Ryan.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. That was a nice intro.
Yeah, that was nice. Uh, so today I asked Ryan to just come on the podcast. Ryan has been in business for himself for a long time. He's also ran large companies. And now him and I started our own venture and we're working together. But I told him that I want to interview him. So, Ryan, are you ready?
This ought to be fun.
Okay. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell the audience about you. I mean, I know a lot about you, but they might want to hear about it.
What do you want to know?
Tell us a little bit about, well, you know what? Maybe we'll just dive in.
Dive
Say
in.
typical analytic. Well, what would you like to know?
hmm
All right. So, Ryan, we're just going to jump right into it. And I want to know because you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I know that you had like role models, mentors in your life that were entrepreneurs. So, what really inspired you to become an entrepreneur at a young age? Like, what was it about that you liked?
So when I was young, we had some really good family friends, and Tom was the guy's name, and he was an entrepreneur. And just a lot of the older men that I had in my life, I had my dad too. He was an employee, but I had a lot of older men, like my parents' friends' age, that were role models to me. And so Tom was really a big influence on my life, and he was a role model. And one of the things that he said that I'll probably remember till the day I die is, "You're never going to get rich working for wages." And that
Mm,
really was good advice. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with working for wages, as Tom put it. Um, Depending on your definition of rich, you probably could get rich. But what he meant, what I took from what Tom said, was it's going to be more work, but it's going to be rewarding and you're going to get to do more the way you want. And I really am not great with authority. So it was really a natural fit for me to be an entrepreneur. And I've had many years where I was also an employee and I had a boss. And I think I was a really good employee. I think I was probably a pain in the butt, but entrepreneur just really, it was a good fit.
So, from what Tom told you, was making money and the opportunity for success, was that the driver or what, like, what was the pull for you?
The pull for me was kind of do what I want, not fit into like a mold of something where I had to do it this way, and these are our systems, and this is our structure. And I don't know that I thought that deep into it when I was a kid, but I just thought, well, I see we come from Brittany and I are from the same small town, and so there's a few people in town that had really done well for themselves, and they were all entrepreneurs, right? And that was my experience. We weren't like city people. We were around zero people in our childhood that were corporate. Like absolutely no one was corporate. You either worked for a small business or you owned a small business pretty much. I
Or you
mean,
worked for the government?
or you worked for the government because we were about 15 miles away from the state capital. So we had a lot of government workers, and that was like, I could not be more allergic to that for me. So, I think just being able to do it the way I wanted to do it, and I'm financially driven for sure, and so that was a big part of it too. I wanted to be successful. I probably didn't have a very clear definition of what success was, when I was 15, 16 years old, but I knew that the people who I looked up to that I thought were successful were able to have some fun, and that's what I wanted.
Nice. Now, what was your first experience in business? Like, what was the first business that you owned, and what was your experience with that?
Let's see. The first business I had, I was 24 years old, and I bought a log truck. And I had a few people who told me it was a bad idea. A few people were supportive, but I've always been sure of what I
Let's
was
just
doing.
share it real quick. Who told you it was a bad idea? Like, who are these people?
So this is funny. So Brittany's dad, who was my boss at the time. I was 24. Brittany, I'm 7 years older than her, so she was, how old were you? 17?
There was nothing romantic at that point in our lives,
Nothing
everybody.
romantic. I just worked for her dad. That was it. Um, but I was 24, and Brittany's dad, who was my boss at the time, who was looking back, he was probably mad because he was losing his best driver. But that being said, he said, "You'll be broke in a year," is what he said. And so that was a little bit discouraging. But me and my 24-year-old self was like, there's absolutely zero chance of that happening. That'll never happen. I'm never going to go broke. And so I just said, okay. And so then I just kept going. But that was my first experience. I'd been in trucking for a long time. I love trucks. That's all I'd done at that point, trucking and heavy equipment. And so it was no big deal for me to buy a truck and just dive in. So that's how I got started.
What would you say the mindset is behind that? Because there's like these older men who have done that because my dad had hauled logs, he had had trucks, he had done it all. And so he probably knew kind of what a bitch it can be to do that, where you're dealing with breakdowns and all this stuff all the time. He really liked you working for him. But like, what is the mindset behind that where people who are successful are like, that's a bad idea, but you in your heart know that this is what you're supposed to do?
It just felt right. It
Yeah.
really just felt right. Um,
And you
again,
weren't going
it
to
was,
listen to anybody?
huh?
You weren't going to listen to anybody?
Probably not. No, when I'm set on something, that's it. It doesn't matter who says it. Like, it really doesn't. That's just how I am. I'm not saying that's a great way to be, but that's how I am. If I'm doing it, like, I'm doing it. Um, so what was the mindset? I didn't think I knew better than them because I really respected, like, I mean, your dad especially. I have a ton of respect for your dad, and now especially, and I did then too. He built a successful business. But I just thought, you don't know how I am, and I'm
Yeah.
going to be able to do it. Like, maybe somebody else would go broke in a year. I could definitely see that, but not me. That's not for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And so I would say, like, to anybody who's listening, like, take that and, sometimes you got to listen to feedback because people might have a vantage point that maybe you don't have, but sometimes you got to take it with a grain of salt because, like, Ryan, because I know both of these men, Ryan has such a love for trucks and he was just had such a big desire that my dad probably didn't have that same desire for trucks. I remember my dad said one time he would have never owned a truck if he didn't need it to haul his product. But like Ryan has like a love of trucks. So it's just different because people see things through their lens. And so it's important that when you're receiving feedback to always take that into consideration is like Ryan really just like knew himself. Now, Ryan,
Well, hold
curious.
on a minute. Let me add to that because that's exactly right. I would say passion. Because
Yeah.
when I was 5 years old, I told my mom and dad, I said, I'm either going to sell shoes at Nordstrom or drive a truck. Like, that's what I seriously wanted to do. Those are the two things. And then I just stuck with driving a truck because I just loved them. I'm crazy for them.
Yeah.
And so it was never a thought. It's like, oh, I have to work 80 or 90 hours a week. Great. That sounds like fun. So it was the passion that was driving me, where somebody else that might think, and I'm just using truck for example, but put whatever you your idea is into this, into that. Um, it didn't matter what it was going to take because I wanted to do it. It was my passion. And a
Yeah.
lot of people said it's a terrible idea, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. And I think that I can just think about like our life together and things that we've done that have been really hard and we've had a lot of obstacles, but the obstacles never mattered because we were so driven to the desired outcome that nothing could stop us. And so if people, I see people get derailed at like the easiest, like slightest little inconvenience and it's like, well then you must not have really wanted it that bad. It's like, well that person said that and that hurt my feelings or they made me be fearful or doubtful. And it's like, well, then you must not really want it. Because, like,
Hmm.
if you're going to go into business for yourself and you're going to try to make a go of it, you got to be friggin' tough. I mean, me and Ryan have done, I mean, we've built houses, we moved across the country with our kids, we sold our dream house, we started our own business. And through every big decision that we've made, people have told us that it was wrong, stupid, bad. How could we want that? Like, and I think that when we've really wanted those things, it's like we don't give a shit what somebody says because we know what is right for us and what our big desire is.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, conviction is so powerful if you're convicted to do something. Now, it doesn't mean I'm so convicted that I can fly an airplane today. That's probably not a good idea, but it's like I'm convicted that I want to be a pilot. And then you continue to take the steps to gain the knowledge and the ability to do it. There's nothing that could stop you.
yeah.
So it's thinking it and then also taking the steps, taking the action that it's going to need. And I would also say that I'm a really faithful person too. So, in everything I pray to God, if this is the right way, then just, make it obvious if I'm not supposed to do this. And there's been a ton of things in my life that I thought, oh, I really want to do this. And then it doesn't happen. And it's because God put in a roadblock. So I would, my faith is a big part of it also.
Yeah, that's really good. And I know you shared a lot already, but some people, I said this in the intro, but Ryan and I started our own business in September. And Ryan's done many things since having his very first truck, and did well with that and then bought a brand new truck, which was also a dream realized for him. And like I said, worked in big companies. And through all the transitions that we've had in our life, we decided to open our own business. And Ryan and I work together, which people always think is like, how do we do that? But what are some of the key lessons that you've learned from your previous experience that you have applied to the business that we have now?
Procrastination is a good way to go broke. So
Oh, wow.
if there's something you need to do, just do it.
Yeah.
Like don't put it off. Just do it. So that's probably a big one. Procrastination. If you enjoy what you do, right? If you enjoy what you do, it doesn't matter if nobody else has made any money in it or been successful in it or enjoyed it. If you like it, you can be successful in it. We were talking to kind of a friend of ours or like an acquaintance the other day, and we were telling her the same thing. Like, find your passion, and the money will follow. Don't go do something because you're gonna make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the money isn't going to be enough. If you do something because it makes a lot of money, and I'm doing air quotes for those people that are just listening, and you hate it, the money doesn't even matter. The money doesn't even matter, you know?
Yeah. And I think that we're a really big believer in that our work is a distribution channel for our talents and our gifts. And like Ryan said, he has a lot of faith. That's something that we share. And we believe that we have purpose in our life. And so if all you're trying to do is chase a dollar through work that you don't enjoy, that's probably not what you're supposed to be doing. And so the other thing, Ryan, that I guess I would add to that is that we really figured out what I mean, I think the term culture gets thrown around too much, but what we want our business to feel like in our life. We're like, we want to work hard, but we also want to have time where we can be present with our family, where we're not a slave to the business, but and we love the people we work with, and there's just a respect and a work ethic. And I think we've talked a lot about that too, like building a really great team that everybody just collaborates really well. And, that's been something that we've had to learn through the process of working in other places as well.
Hmm. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this or watching this that can think of a specific job or place they worked where they're like, this is miserable. The people don't get along. The boss doesn't like me. The boss is a jerk. He doesn't know anything. Like, there's so many situations like that. And so that was really one thing that Brittany and I want to build at the revenue agency is everybody works in their gifts. And if you haven't read or heard of Dan Sullivan, look him up. Dan Sullivan. He talks about this a lot, where everybody works in their gifts and their strengths. And so if you build a team around that, then the frustration is minimized. Because think about, like, Brittany hates emails. She hates it. And so if she had a job that was like all emails every day, she could do it, but she'd be miserable. She would hate it. But she really likes to be creative and come up with new ideas. So think of the difference between if Brittany is doing something she hates but can do and probably well, or something she is very passionate about and really enjoys and can do well. Think about how you would be if you got to do things that you enjoyed versus things you didn't enjoy. And that's just kind of what we're trying to build here. In our contracts to work with us, we have people sign contracts. There's actually a morals clause in there that's like, if we don't align with like what's going on, we are immediately out. Like, you're not doing BS with us, because that's not what we're trying to promote, and we don't care about the money for that. Like,
No.
it's if we had, for example, we had a possibility for a big contract and it didn't align with us, and we're like, we're not doing that. You're out. We don't care. Money's not worth it.
No, no. And I believe too that like there's a match back for that, that when you're doing things out of your values, like truly making decisions from your values, that will always come back to you. You're never missing out on something. It's like if there's people that would pay you, but it's totally out of alignment, and then you still do business with them, that is the hardest work you're ever gonna do, probably energetically. Like, it's gonna be challenging. But if you're working with people who are in alignment and you hold your standard, then those are the people that you're going to attract. So it's really powerful when you do that. And I think too, right, I'll add on to what you were saying about um working in our gifts. The difference too, like I think of me, like I'm a woman, I'm a mom, men and women are very different. And I think if I'm doing a job where I do not enjoy it, I don't like the people I'm working with, I don't love what I'm doing, it's not filling my cup, and then I leave that work and I come home to my kids, am I going to be the best version of myself? Or if I'm at work and I'm doing things that are lighting me up, and this is what God put me on this earth to do, and these are the gifts He gave me, and I'm using them, and I leave and I'm energized and excited, how do I show up as a wife and mom? It's like we just show up so much better. And yeah, it makes a really big difference. So, right, I'm going to pivot a little bit, kind of.
Okay.
But a lot of people, when they find out that you and I are together all the time, I mean, Ryan and I would say we're best friends. Or I wouldn't say that. I know that, but we're also, we love being married to each other. We love raising kids together. We love working together. It doesn't mean that we always, I mean, I think we agree on a lot of stuff, but it doesn't mean that we don't get frustrated sometimes with how the other person is working. But what do you think as we work together? Some of the communication strategies. I know I think we're both intense, but you're quieter than I am. I externally process, as you like to say. So, and I get mad real quick. I got a quick trigger. But people ask us all the time, like, oh my gosh, you guys work together and you're together all the time. You work from home. How do you guys do that? And what do you think, like, some of the strategies are? Just would, like, if somebody asked you, how do you work with your wife? How do you guys do that? Like, what would you say some of the strategies we use are?
Brittany's a very good communicator. She does externally process, but she also is big on lots of communication, meaning she doesn't let anything fester. She just gets it right out. Where I'm more of a thinker. So I would say communication is really good, because I'm not a natural communicator. I mean, I'll talk about stuff. It's not like I'm shut down or anything, but I think about things, or I'm quiet.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference. So I think communication is key. I think a lot of people maybe don't work together. We had some friends years ago in a different company we were working with, and they worked together. And somebody asked them, they said, how do you work together? And they said, we don't. We don't. She does her thing and he does his thing, and then that's it. But Brittany and I do collaborate pretty well. And I don't know if it's just how we're wired, or I don't know what it is, but we collaborate very well, because Brittany's strengths are maybe what I'm not so strong at, and my strengths are maybe what Brittany's not so great at. So we
Mhm.
really collaborate well. And I think we're both pretty understanding. And it's not like we don't look at our marriage as a win lose, right? We don't look at our business partnership as a win lose. Like, here's a great example, and I've
Like,
used this.
I'm right and you're wrong. It's like we don't have to have somebody that wins the argument or the fight or the disagreement. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly. It's a team effort. It's not like I
Mhm.
scored the basket or she scored the basket and then I'm mad about it. It's the team got a basket is really what it
Yeah.
is. So I kind of look at it, or I've used this analogy before, where it's like, if the toilet paper roll is empty, don't get mad at who left it or try to find blame and, well, who did this? And I'm going to just put, just, who knows
Yeah.
what it was? It could have been either I forgot or I didn't want to, or who cares? It doesn't matter. It needs to be, filled up. So just do it, you know,
Yeah.
just
I
move
want
on with your day because there's so many things that we could look at and nitpick and be irritated about, or we could just say, oh, this needs to be done.
Yeah.
Just do
One
it.
thing too that I would say is that we have learned a lot about each other from like doing personality styles, and like it's great to learn about yourself first, but then it's also important to learn about your partner. And so Ryan and I, we we work like, and I don't mean like the work we're doing, but like the capacity in which we work, like in the energy that we work in, we have things that we enjoy better. So like Ryan, and then, and it probably annoys each other like at some point, but then we have to kind of take a step back and go, oh, okay, he's in his zone. I need to just let him do it, even if I don't like the timing of it. Like Ryan has been lately wanting to, like, he'll get stuff done at night. And I'm like, but we're like watching a show with the kids, but he just pops into the office and he gets something done. And that's a really good time for him. And I like to work in the morning. And sometimes that's when Ryan like wants to chat and see what we're going to do today and blah blah blah, but I'm like, I need to be alone right now because like I'm in the zone, so like you need to leave me alone. And that's not mean. It's, hey, it's asking for what you need so that you can work at your best. And I know that Ryan will kind of like flip me around and be like, oh great, so you just don't want to talk to me. And I know he's joking, but I there has to be this mental piece there that you're filtering things through, and he has to go, oh, this has nothing to do with me, that she doesn't want to hang out with me right now. I need to respect her space and that she's in the zone right now. And I need to let her have quiet, because when she has quiet and she can think, she's really brilliant. And then I know that if he gets on a task, the last thing that he wants is to be interrupted. So it's like I have to kind of be a filter for the kids. If it's like I'm not doing anything, but he's being productive, it's, hey, kids, what do you need? Don't bother daddy. He's busy. I can help you. And so I think we've always been really good at that. And that wasn't something that we were good at a long time ago, but it's something we've had to learn to like support each other in the ways that we like to function.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
said that it wasn't natural because there's
Yeah.
probably some people that are like, oh, we're not there now.
Yeah. We're fucked.
Yeah, exactly. Believe me, it's not natural. I think
Yeah.
the first time we did a painting project, which was at the house I owned a long time ago, there was some friction because it was like when I paint, this is a good example of how we're different. When I paint, I start at one side and I go all the way across, and I go down, then I go all the way across. Brittany starts in the middle. She might paint here, and then she gets bored. Then she goes to the other side.
And
But
then I
what
start
we had,
cutting in before the rolling's done.
yeah, what we both had to understand is that it's not like you're doing it wrong. It's you're doing it your way. We both want the wall finished. We're both going to finish the wall. And
Yeah.
if you just showed up at the beginning and the wall and the project hadn't even started, and then you showed up at the end and it was finished, what does it matter how it gets there? It's not like
Yeah.
it's a right or wrong or moral situation. It's just
Yeah.
she has a different process than me. And for me to be upset because she's not doing it my way is actually pretty selfish.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah,
had
it
to,
is.
yeah. I mean, you're doing it wrong, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it wasn't natural. We had to work at it. And
Yeah.
you touched on this a second ago. We actually had to have a conversation about um, you like to work in the morning, you get creative, and you need to be alone. You don't
Yeah.
need noise and dogs barking and me interrupting you. You need like either like music on or just quiet and working. Where I don't, if I'm doing something, it's just different. So, but we had to learn what we liked and then communicate to the other person. Like if I'm doing this, don't bother me. And like I love you, but you got to get the f out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's just funny that, and so I would say as a result just of how I work, right, we converted an office in the upstairs quietest room in our house for my office, because if I was in the office downstairs doing this, like I don't know if you guys have heard it, but there's been a dog barking outside and it's on Ryan's end and it's our dog. That would drive me crazy. And then I would get off of this and I would be like steaming mad. Like I would, because it's like, I just, sensory stuff really bothers me. So I need a quiet room with soft fabrics that absorb sound. And so he supports me in that. And I've had to learn, like he said, to support that if he's in a zone, don't interrupt the guy. Like, don't do it. I mean, if you have to, obviously it's not like we're completely like, no, but,
It's just
yeah,
work. It's just work style preferences, and to
yeah,
be most effective,
yep.
that's what we like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I don't know. So any couples who are out there who are like working together or thinking about it, I would definitely say learn about yourself and then learn about your partner, because like I love that we're not the same, but we all, like I said earlier, we always view everything through our lens first, and then we have to translate it because relationships are really important. And we're expanding our team, and that's important to us with the people that we work with as well, that they have autonomy to work the way they like. Like I like to work in the morning. Sometimes I'll get some stuff done at night, but like I don't like to work in the afternoon. It's like a it's like a no-go zone for me. So it's like that's when I'll run errands or get out of the house or have an appointment or whatever, because I'm not great for work at that time. And some people might go, well, how in the hell do you do that? That's crazy. But that's the part, going back to entrepreneurship, is we always get the work done, but we get to work how we want. And we're not in an office where we have to be there from 8 to 5. And that's also the same type of atmosphere we're going to provide for our team members that we're bringing on, because we trust them, we respect them. They're great at what they do. Like Ryan said, you find people who are great in their gifts, and we make sure that their gifts fill the voids in this company. And, it's just, I'm really excited to see how that expands, because that's something that we have never, ever, as much as we've heard people say how that would be a good idea, we've never worked in a company where that has been what actually happens. And so we're like, our company will be that way, where people get to work how they want
Hmm.
in their gifts, and as long as stuff's getting done, and we provide a really beautiful product. So
Hmm.
I'm excited.
And I
Yeah.
mean, our number one, what should I say? Measurement is going to be results. Like, I
Yep.
don't care if you like night shift. I don't care.
Yeah. Work at 2 in the morning. I don't care. Get
Yeah,
it done
like
by
the
the
other,
time it needs to be
yeah, the
done.
other morning I was thinking about something. So at 4 o'clock, I was like, I'm just going to get up and get to work. But that's what it's really going to be, is results. And the way we decided that is because, like, really, what else matters? Like, I need to be in a building or sit in front of a computer, or I have to be available from 9 to 5. Like, forget that. Like, I'm not doing it.
No,
Not
no.
for
I
me.
mean, I understand why corporations have to have that, like there's reasons why, but for what we're doing and the fields we've worked in, it's like, no, like we don't need to do that. And that's, I really think at the base for a lot of that is not being able to trust people, or not trusting people, even if they are trustworthy, and then having control over them and saying, you have to do this, and this are the hours and this is what you have to do. And we just don't believe in that. So what would you write, like somebody who's maybe either young or maybe they've always been an employee, somebody who's like, I really am thinking about starting my own business, but it's scary because the thing with starting your own business is there's probably somewhat of a financial investment, depending, like either small or large. And so that's scary to put yourself out there. And then, like, what would you tell somebody? Like, what advice would you give them if they're starting their own business for the first time?
Um, Probably a few things. First of all, I would ask them some questions. I would say, why do you want to work for yourself? Because depending on their answer, it might be for you, it might not be for you. Because a lot of times it isn't because you're going to make more money. It isn't, if I work for a job, I'm making X amount of dollars. If I work for myself, I'm going to make way more money. You might, it's possible. You really have unlimited potential, but it might take a while, and you might get burned out before you get there. But you might be able to work more on your schedule, just like we were talking about, or just be able to do the things you want to do. So I'd probably ask them some questions. I would say, do you know anybody that's done it that you really respect, and talk to them,
Hmm.
and get some advice from them. It doesn't mean you have to take it, but definitely, it's the saying, don't take advice from someone that hasn't done what you want to do. So I would say that's a big thing. And maybe you don't have that person, but learn as much as you can about it. And then one thing I would say for sure is there isn't the right time to do it. It's
Yeah,
like
that's
when I
good.
when I when all this stuff lines up, then I'll do it. Or when all this happens, then it's time. It's like, I don't really think there's a right time. I think the right time is when you decide, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm completely sick of it. I don't want that anymore. I want this. And so you have that conviction, that fuel that no matter what it takes, you're going to do it. That's really what I would say.
That's great. And then so kind of going back to how we both function in a business together, I'm very much like I can see it. I have the vision. Like I'm very much a visionary. Ryan is very much an integrator. Though if you haven't heard those terms really before and how they work together, I would say get the book Rocket Fuel. It's brilliant. A lot of businesses, the person who starts the business is the visionary, and they have to be the visionary and the integrator until they can build a team. And, so if that's you, I would be on the lookout for who that integrator can be for you. But, gosh, I got lost my train of thought a little bit for a second. I was going to talk about, I don't know. Is there anything you want to add, Ray? I just lost my train of thought for a
Well,
second.
I think one thing that is really beneficial, because in every business you're going to have to work with people. I mean, there might be a few where you don't, but there's always going to be a customer, or there's going to be, a vendor or something, or a client that you're going to have to deal with. So I think one of the things that's really helped us, and we were kind of pushed into it in the last probably 7 or 8 years, is personal development.
Mm.
We learned the disc profile. We looked at like, what's all the stuff we've learned?
The
Human
Clifton Strengths
design,
Finder.
yeah, all this stuff,
Yeah.
right? All of it is just kind of how you're wired, or how you work, or how you are naturally. And to learn those things about yourself is I think it's very helpful in a lot of situations. And then when you understand that, then you're able to communicate so much better with other people, because you can see a few key triggers in how other people are, and it's so much better to work with them. So
Yeah.
like Brittany said, when I'm on to something, like if you look at like all those things, I'm like the taskmaster basically. So like when I'm on to a project, like the last thing that I want is to be interrupted. And so she knows that. So that's why she said earlier, like, hey, let's
I
not.
didn't used to, though. I used to be
Yeah, you
like,
didn't used
what
to.
the hell is your problem? Like, don't be
Hmm.
a jerk to me,
Hmm.
you know?
But I think that's such a valuable thing to understand about yourself. And by learning about yourself, then you can know more things about other people, whether it's your kids, your parents, your coworkers, your staff, your employee, like anybody, your kids' coaches on their sports team. Like if you understand how people think, it's so much more effective and beneficial to communicate with them. So I think that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. And I would say if you're in any kind of position of leadership or want to be a leader, you need to learn about people. Because, like I said, once again, we always think everything's from our vantage point and we think that that's how the world is. But, like Ryan and I have given some examples on Brittany's planet, things go like this. On Ryan's planet, things are like this. And then our planets have to work together. I remembered my question I was going to ask you. And I was going back to, I got off on a little tangent about how Ryan's really the integrator. So Ryan takes care of a lot of the kind of the not sexy stuff of a business, but the things that are really important. He manages the finances. He gets the LLC or the S corp, whatever, set up, like the tax structure. He, buys the domain and does the emails and all this stuff. Now, if somebody was like, okay, I'm going to start a business, what would you say the first thing that they do is? Would it be registering the business? Would it be buying a domain? Like, what should they do? Like, what's the first step?
Um,
Is it making a business plan? I don't really believe in business plans, but I'm not a planner. So,
yeah, I mean, I would think a person, I mean, if they've come to the conclusion that they're going to go into business for themselves, they probably know at least a product they're going to have, or what they're going to offer someone, or what they need to buy. Like they kind of know that stuff. But I would say set up the business. That's how I start every business that we've ever done, whether it's real estate or it's coaching or truck, like whatever it is. It's always like, okay, we got to come up with a name, we got to establish an LLC or an S corp or whatever you're going to do, or if you, it's
or
just
sole proprietorship.
yeah, it's just going to be under your name, sole proprietor. Like get all the back end stuff going. But I'm kind of a back end guy. We've had another guy we worked with at one time was like, get somebody to pay you $10,000 to something to a service you offer, and then you'll figure it out. It's like, I don't really work that way, but that's what I would suggest is get the back end stuff, because That's pretty important. It's eventually, you're going to have to do it. So as I said earlier, this procrastination thing, uh, it's not sexy, like Brittany said, but just get it done. Like get it
Yeah.
set up.
Yeah. And then the thing is too is you can get lost in all of that. Like if like he said if you procrastinate and you're like, "Well, I have to do this first." And then I would say like you got to go find your first customer.
Mm.
I saw a post the other day actually in a Facebook group that was like, "What's something that really like helped you build your business?" And people are giving these elusive answers. They're like, God's my business partner," which I totally believe in. Like I'm not knocking God. And they're like giving like these kind of stupid bullshit feel good answers. I'm like, this is all bullshit. Like, really, is what I was thinking. I thought, you got to get into action. You got to beat the phones. You got to do the stuff that's tough and you got to put your ego aside and you got to freaking get to work. You got to go find somebody, like Ryan said, that's going to pay you. But you got to have the structure set up right. So you're like truly an operating business. When you run and gun, that's what I call it, when you're just kind of getting in there and getting messy, which a lot of visionaries will do. Um, there's a lot of cleanup on the back end. And before you know it, a couple of years has gone by and you're like, crap, like my tax structure's off. I don't have any receipts, like blah, blah, blah. Like somebody, and that would be more like my style. So that's why I'm so happy that I have a partner like Ryan, because he keeps everything kind of together. So I think that I would also give people in business the advice of know your strengths. Like I have no ego around saying that I'm not good at that stuff. Like, and I don't want to be. Like, it's just not interesting to me. Even the fact that Ryan says if I buy something, like, okay, Brittany, buy it on the company credit card and email it to me. Even doing that, I'm like, ah, but I'm like, okay, I know it. I know it's going to like help him be organized. So I need to do that. I need to make myself do it. But like all of it's like so obnoxious to me, but it's really important. So it's really important to have both sides of the coin, right? When building and working in a business. So
Organization really is like a kind of a long-term thing. Like Brittany said, it's not sexy. It's really not. But being organized a little bit, and here's, like Brittany said, if you're not an organized person, there's a lot of people out there who that is their business. And you can find a bookkeeper that can help you with all your stuff because you don't know it. That's fine. It doesn't matter. But,
yeah.
some structures need to be in place. It's going to make your life a lot easier down the road. And like Brittany also said, to reiterate, like, don't get bogged down in all of it because you really do need to go find a client. Like you can do,
Yes.
okay, I have my Google Calendar set up and I have my email, I have my domain, I have my LLC, and I have my EIN and all this
My
stuff.
Stripe account.
I got Stripe hooked up, I got my CRM, I got everything. And then it's like, well, you don't even have any clients and you don't have any leads to talk to. So there's kind of a balance, but, get organized and then get your butt to work. Don't take a vacation. Don't go to Mexico the first week of business. Put your nose to the grindstone and go, go, go. And maybe come up for air in, a few months.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be willing to get into a season and get after it. Okay. Final question. It's a light one. It's a good one to end on. What do you love most about being an entrepreneur and what keeps you motivated on the difficult days?
What do I love most about being an entrepreneur is freedom and the unlimited potential for our life and for our kids. So that's probably it because I'll speak for myself is freedom is a big one,
Yeah.
so that's really big.
What is that? What keeps you motivated on the difficult days? Because we've had days where we're like, "F this." Maybe not so much as entrepreneurs. But that's probably more about when having a job. We felt that
Yeah,
way.
you and I are both like, I'm about ready to go slap the dog. By the way,
I was like, "What is that noise?"
Sunny.
Like somebody's breaking into the house down there.
He's
Hey
trying.
guys, this is why I'm upstairs. The only way I hear it is through Ryan's, his end.
What was the second question?
Just like what keeps you motivated? Like what motivates you? Like, cause it's not easy, like, right? Like sometimes it's really fun and awesome. And then sometimes it's freaking hard. And like some days you're not motivated. Like saying that entrepreneurs are just like naturally more motivated, that's not necessarily true. There's just like a drive. So what really is it that drives you?
I've always wanted to be the best. I can remember my mom told me when I was little, I was probably playing basketball or whatever I was doing. She's like, if you're going to do something, like do it, go 100%, like whatever it is. And so that's kind of always stuck with me. I really pride myself on I want to be the best at whatever I'm doing. And so on the hard days, it's like, it's really not that hard. If I have to file a report or I have to talk to somebody on the phone or whatever it is, it's like, this isn't life or death. So like,
Yeah.
be tough and do it anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Be tough.
that's probably what it is. And just the idea that we want to build this, this company that can help a lot of people and can bring people onto our team that really increases their life. So there's a lot of that too. That's like, this is going to be the vehicle that really helps us and our kids and everybody that we work with. Like, we're going to leave them with the impression of increase. So it's like, if we do a half-assed job, like, it's just lazy. And
Yeah.
lazy is like, well, I was going to say a
Like the
curse word. I was
worst.
going to say a curse word, but it's really not, because it's like it's a really bad word in our house. Lazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's like, ugh, lazy.
It's
Like,
probably
it's
one
one
of
of the
the like
worst
worst
words.
things that somebody could
Yeah.
call you in our house. Yeah.
Yeah. So, toughen
That's
up. Do it
good.
anyway. It
Yeah.
is hard. So what? A
It's
lot of
worth it though.
a lot of
It's
stuff
worth
is
it.
hard. Yeah, man. What's on the other side of it?
Yeah.
Going to the gym's hard, but you know, you want to be in shape and you want to be healthy and be able to run around with your great grandkids when you're 80. Get after it.
Yeah. I love it. All right. So we're going to wrap up there. Thanks, Rye.
Yeah, thanks. This is it's nice to meet you. Thank you for the opportunity to be interviewed.
Oh my goodness. Well, hey, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Once again, this is the Revenue Agency Podcast. We are Ryan and Brittany Hall, owners and founders of this company. And go ahead and like and subscribe. We would love to have you follow along with us. We are dropping these episodes every Wednesday, so stay tuned in. See you later.